How have the responsibilities of childcare and parenthood impacted the marriage and formation of the target family? In order to answer this question, I took time to interview my mother to better understand how the processes and responsibilities of parenthood had influenced my parents' ideals, definitions, and fundamental understandings of marriage and the family. I asked my mother a series of questions to gain an understanding of the images, ideals, and values that were central in my mother's notions regarding family and marriage. My mother's definition of a family is a supportive, understanding, appreciative, and respectful team unit that persists through difficult events, experiences, and stages of growth. Additionally, she defined marriage as a collective, cohesive team that has a purpose of working towards achieving an emotional, supportive union and an understanding of how each other thinks. Eli Finkel, in his 2014 New York Times article, described an all-or-nothing marriage as a vehicle for self-discovery, self-esteem, and personal growth. Her definition, my mother's definition, of marriage and family aligns with this all-or-nothing marriage that Eli Finkel describes. In fact, she also described the relationship of a marriage and a family as a functioning unit with the purpose of raising children and providing a good and a healthy basis for them to learn from and reflect on in their future relationships. Natalie Anger, in her 2013 New York Times article, described the current trends that have been seen in the modern marriage as a crowning event of later adulthood, an event that follows such previous achievements as finishing college, starting a career, and owning furniture. My mother's marriage reflects these current trends that Natalie Anger noted, and in fact, throughout our interview, my mother also emphasized the importance of establishing independence before committing to a marriage and the creation of a family. In fact, she wanted to be financially capable of paying her own bills, owning her own car, and doing her own taxes. She felt the need to be able to cook for herself and learn all the necessary things that she needed to learn in order to live and to function independently before making the decision to become married to my father. What Kafalis describes in his 2011 article are marriage planners and marriage naturalists. And he states that whereas the naturalists see marriage as a prerequisite for being an adult, marriage planners instead want to establish themselves as adults before they wed. In this sense, my mother was definitely a marriage planner. She also stated that I don't think it is the children that necessarily stresses the marriage, but it is the duties and the responsibilities to keep the family functioning. My mother described parenthood as a combination of sacrifice and compromise. She described her experience of raising children as a shift within the family unit towards focusing on the children as opposed to the marriage. However, she noted that the strength of her marriage was the basis and foundation for the successful transition into parenthood. Although they were devoting the majority of their time towards childcare and work, my mother noted that the stress of parenthood was never enough to disrupt the marital bond, as they were always able to find quality time to spend together. This was also in part due to the fact that we had a family nanny named Jackie, who assisted in childcare and the maintenance of the home and was essentially part of the family. As Eli Finkel notes in his article, spouses who spent time alone with each other talking or sharing an activity at least once per week were more likely to be very happy in their marriage than spouses who did so less frequently. So although the duties and the responsibilities of parenthood required sacrifices of things like traveling, eating out, and seeing friends, my mother and father, due partly to their financial capacity to have a stay-at-home nanny to assist in childcare, were able to be alone with each other and maintain their marriages throughout the stresses of raising two children. Furthermore, the act of raising children in and of itself served as a test and a validation of their strong emotional connection, as they were able to learn from each other's experiences and adapt their parenting styles to most effectively support their children throughout parenthood. My mother noted that at times there were differences in parenting styles, but never enough to cause a problem in the relationship, and continued that there should be a difference in parenting styles within a family, but the goal of a family is to compromise and to meet in the middle. She discussed the different cultural upbringings of their parents, since my father was raised in England and my mother was raised in America by Italian parents. My father grew up with a dad who was working over 70 hours a week, and my mother grew up with a father who was always at home. These differences in their childhood experiences influenced the ways that they chose to raise their children. In fact, my mother's parents also experienced the death of their daughter from cancer when she was only 22 years old, but the marriage and the family survived through this immense hardship and eventually had another child, my Uncle Donald. And this experience influenced my mother profoundly and taught her the value of a loving, strong relationship that can withstand and persevere through difficult times within a family. While my mother definitely endured the difficult events, experiences, and stages of growth that come along with the formation of a family as she described in her initial definition, it was the support, understanding, appreciation, and respect within the foundation of their marriage that allowed for the family unit to persevere through the stresses and responsibilities of parenthood, as well as the difficulty of parental disagreements and the necessary sacrifices that were inherent within the process of raising children.